Can I ask you, so going back a second to chronic pain versus, so originally, as you went down the list, trigger point therapy, Rolfing, I think those are things that someone might come in with a specific pain, like specifically my left arm hurts and, I don't know why. And we kind of look for the source of that particular spot.
Exactly.
But then going into chronic pain, where it's more widespread, and I think that kind of fits into the nervous system dysregulation.
That's right.
Uh, can you kind of talk a little bit about how um, you might decide, like with a new client, if which way they need to go, and are you just kind of blending each in a session as a session goes through with a
That's an
client?
excellent question. So, yeah, I mean, the chronic pain is really typically defined medically as pain that is persistent after 3 to 6 months. I mean, it depends on who you read, but um, and the fundamental difference is that when you have chronic pain, let me put it this way. This is how I describe it to clients. Let's say you're walking down the street and you trip over something and you fall and catch yourself in a weird way with your shoulder. And your shoulder doesn't work right after that. It's kind of frozen up or hurts when you try to raise it up. So the question that if they come to me after that happens is, okay, what's the problem now? So did they break something? Because if something's torn, they may need to go to an orthopedist. Like, if they, but if they just strain something or pulled a muscle, then that's where I really shine. However, if that pain persists beyond like 3 months, now by 3 months, soft tissue is going to heal already, typically, unless it's a ligament or cartilage or something like that. And if the pain persists, it's actually central nervous system problem. So it's an interpretive problem. So it's what happens is that the nervous system gets into these habit loops, just like all of us do generally. I mean, it's no different than I eat too much sugar and I don't want to, but every time I get near sugar, I do it anyway. Well, with chronic pain, what it is there's this loop of pain report, and it's stuck in the central nervous system. It has nothing to do with the original injury anymore. And to solve that, you need to break that habit. Now, how you do that is the magic question. And there's different neural pathways that you can stimulate, and you got to figure out which neural pathway is compromised. And if you stimulate that one correctly, then you have a change of symptoms, right? You have this disruption of that pain cycle. And it's tricky because everybody's different. Their nervous system, their biology, even the same people from the same family. So if you want to, you can't just take someone in the office and say, you have chronic pain. I know exactly what you need. I'm going to give you this protocol that I give everybody. That doesn't work. I was really hoping that's what I would find, by the way. That's kind of
Mm.
what we all hope. You're like, oh, I'm going to find the way. And what I've discovered is the way is actually being incredibly open-minded and curious and realizing that no matter how much I know, someone's going to come in, tomorrow and stump me
Mhm.
because that's the way it goes. And if you follow any of the experts on chronic pain and PTSD, like Dr. Vanderkirk, that's what he says. He goes, you want to have as many tools in your toolbox as you can because it's just not clear what people need when they walk in the door. You have to be explorative with it. So it's a challenging thing to take on, especially because people are upset because they've been hurting for like,
Mhm.
months or years. It's interfering with their life. They've already been to 28 people, and so they're hoping this will help them this time.
Yeah.
But if when you succeed, it's unbelievably satisfying because someone's life is altered for the better. You had something to do with it. It's like it's pretty cool, but it is hard, and there's a lot of challenges involved.
Yeah. And I like that, that you bring in the fact that, people are upset.
Yeah.
And so that's a piece of your work, that emotional aspect, that connection, and like really,
Hmm.
again, understanding the nervous system and the brain and how those emotions can perpetuate some of the pain and
Yeah, and it's kind of part and parcel as well. So I mean, without going too deep into this, because I could go on for hours, but about why this works, and how it works, is that whatever. So let me back up a second. Fundamentally, there is no difference between chronic pain and trauma.
right.
And the reason for that is because what you have is you have a nervous system that is chronically interpreting its environment as dangerous in some way. And it's not true. So this is, have a misinterpretive cycle going on. Because one of the things I discovered in my deep dive into neuroscience, it was quite surprising, is that pain is subjective. Pain report. It's highly subjective, and people would argue, well, wait a minute here. What do you mean? When I hit my thumb with a hammer, it hurts every time I hit it. Okay, that's true, and that's real. But what if you hit your finger, your thumb with a hammer, and it hurt for 6 months, and the X-rays showed no damage, and the MRI showed nothing, and all the medical tests showed nothing? Well, that's a misinterpretive cycle. But also just general stimulation interpretation is incredibly variant depending on how the nervous system is. So
Mhm.
some people are very sensitive to sound, touch, lights. This is actually a sign of nervous system dysregulation. But it's also, some people are, I'm a sensitive person. So my threshold is different than someone else. Like there's some people that can, like some of these soldiers that are really good soldiers, they can go through battles, explosions, death, and it's not like they like it, but they
Mhm.
can shake it off. Someone
Mhm.
like me, probably not a good job for me,
Right.
because I would probably have a hard time shaking those experiences out of my body. It would stick with me. This is my whole history, and that's true of my clients. The ones that have chronic pain issues, they're sensitive people typically, not everybody, because you can still get traumatized if you're not a sensitive person. It's just that you're more likely to be overwhelmed, and that's what trauma is. It's an overwhelm that can't be processed at the moment. Um, so it's interesting. I mean, it's interesting to see these new paradigms showing up that kind of explain why people suffer so much and why it's so hard when you go to regular practitioners to get any help, because this view is still up and coming, and there's still this tendency to blame the client or the patient. Oh, you must not really want to be well, because you won't think positive or something like that. So actually, I kind of went a little off the trail here, but what I'm wanting to explain is that whatever nervous system state your subconscious puts you in, and this is what happens, the subconscious decides how you're going to think, feel, and behave in response to its perception of your situation. And therefore, you're going to be, if you're in these deep states of shutdown or freeze, which is that's a nervous system response that's very ancient, you will be depressed, low energy, negative, and nihilistic typically. And you can't help it, right? So this, chronic pain and mental challenges are the same thing. So depression and chronic pain aren't any different. And this is, people think they're separate. They're not. Every single chronic
Yeah.
pain person has depression, right? Is every depressed person in chronic pain? No, not if it's not chronic and super deep. But anyone that's really seriously stuck in a deep depressive state, it's considered a form of chronic pain, right? So you've got this, psychological and physical issues are not separate, and this is part of the mistake we've made in the past, is seeing them as separate. So you can't, this, and again, I'm not saying that thinking positive never works, but in the deepest states of chronic issues like chronic pain, telling someone to try to think positive is really kind of like asking a person with a broken leg to run.
Yeah.
Not going to happen. Not till they get further up the ladder of regulation, and then it helps. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's kind of a long answer. I hope that helped. Hi, I'm Michael Westgate. Thank you for joining me. I've helped people with chronic pain for over 2 decades. I aim to help you say goodbye to pain and hello to a fully lived life.